you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch a flight, it better be worth it. Finally taking off. I hope this is worth it. Gujarat, we worship Lamborghini. The breakfast buffet was entirely vegetarian. Also, I have to wait in this hotel lobby for 8 hours. I really hope this is worth it.
And when Nissan genes decide to evolve, they become smarter, sharper, and drive towards the future.
The sun is setting. I've been awake since 4 AM and we're just about to get into the cars to drive to the Rann of Kutch, where we'll be braking for the night. It is very important that this is worth it. We've got our car. We got a driver. Please do say hi to your fans.
Hello.
Say hi to my fans.
Hi to Tushar's fans. If you have any.
Who are these people holding cameras in front of their faces? Hell.
Welcome to Kent.
Tushar Probably worth it. This is Motovore, I'm Tushar, and we're in one of the world's largest salt deserts, the Greater Rann of Kutch, just for kicks. And if you think that was an original joke, well, you have very low standards. Right, so we're here in the glamping theme park that is the Rann Utsav tent city that you see behind me. I've lived here before and we broke for the night yesterday. We drove here in the Nissan Kicks from Bhuj city. So we've done about roughly about 80 kilometers of driving in the Kicks so far. It's been mostly highway, and the first thing that strikes you about the Kicks is that basically it's really comfortable and pliant to drive. You never have a situation where a speed bump or any kind of rough roads upset you. In fact, I am told that it's a shade better than its cousins, the Duster as well as the Terrano. We're going to talk about the engine now. The Kicks that we've been driving is the diesel. It's actually available in two engine options. There's a petrol as well as the diesel. We haven't driven the petrol. This is the diesel. It's a 1.5 liter inline 4 diesel motor. It's got a variable geometry motor, makes about 110 PS and 240 Newton meters of torque. Again, only highway driving, but it's sprightly. It's quite nice. It's not a barnstormer. It's not a tire burner, but again, my problem always on the highway is, can I overtake safely? Can I do a couple of trucks safely? This one you can. This is really nice to drive. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual with the diesel. The petrol comes with a 5-speed. This is a 6-speed. It's nice to row. You feel engaged while using the gearbox. I don't feel a great deal of turbo lag. Of course, pretty much every... Where was I? Turbo lag. You don't feel it. You don't feel a great deal of turbo lag. Pretty much every vehicle is going to have a little bit below 2000 RPM. But the sweet spot of this engine is between 2 and 2,500 RPM. It's reasonably quiet. Actually, it is nice and quiet. It feels very smooth. And you just kind of lope along on the highway, put it in 5th or 6th. It's really nice to drive. In terms of NVH, it's not the best. I understand that the Creta can be a little bit smoother and silkier feeling. You know, you don't really hear that engine much. This one you will hear it a little bit. There is a little bit of boom if you step on the gas and it goes over 2.5 to 3,000 RPM. You hear that boom. I like this engine. So Nissan wants to pitch this as a progressive SUV, not a crossover, a progressive SUV, and they're talking up the premium aspects of it. And I can tell you, the first time I saw this car from the inside was actually in a colleague's video. And even there on YouTube with compressed video and things like that, I could tell that this two-tone color, this dark color scheme that they have going, does actually feel quite premium. And now sitting in the car myself, I can say that that bears out. I really like what they've done with the black and the brown, the two-tone look, the dark look. To me, the dark look actually looks more premium than beige and lighter colors, which tend to brighten up the cabin and give you that sense of space. But this to me looks more elegant. I like what they've done with the dash, the soft touch leatherette, even the plastics. We were driving with one of the Japanese designers of this car from the global team. He lives in Chennai, and he said that Indians have this unique way of assessing value. They actually touch and feel all the plastics, and then they decide whether it feels good to them. And I'm an Indian, and I'm touching and feeling all over the place, and I like what I'm feeling. It looks nice, it looks elegant, it looks well put together, well executed. There's contrast stitching all over the seats. It looks good. Generally, it feels like a premium interior at first glance. Let's talk about backseat comfort now. I've been sharing this car with Lijo Mathai, and he is unusually tall. He's 6'4". This driver's seat is adjusted for his driving position, and he looks ridiculous driving it. It's all frog-legged and things like that. But for a 6'4" person, this is the driving position. And this is me at 5'9" in the rear seat. Check this out. I would estimate about 3 to 4 inches of knee room still. It's really comfortable. I've even tried this seat all the way back with a slightly larger person at the back, and while the knees touched, it was still comfortable, still acceptable. The seats seem to be okay. I like the fact that they have this little quilted design in the center, in the black part. It's a two-tone seat. If there is a niggle, it's a minor one in the short driving that we've done, but it might be significant for longer drives. Is that this seat, the rear seat is kind of shallow, and it's a little bit flat, so you don't really have thigh support. With my feet firmly and flat on the floor pan, my thighs are kind of lifted off the seat, and there's nothing supporting them. So that might be a discomfort to some, but in general, I think space-wise, I'm okay. 2 people, certainly no problems at all. 3 people in a pinch will be actually comfortable because there isn't much of a transmission tunnel. I'd estimate maybe it's 2.5 to 3 inches tall, and it's fairly flat. So if somebody's sitting in the middle, it's not going to complain too much, apart from the nether regions being very chilled, because there is a rear AC vent in the center armrest area. There is also a 12-volt charger socket in the back, so your kids or your co-passengers who need to charge their devices, they're sorted. Right, so I'm in the boot. I've just removed the parcel tray to show you what it's like. Nissan claims this is a class-leading boot. It's about 400 liters. I'll take their word for it. The good thing, the thing that I like about this boot is that it's almost entirely flat. There's a little bit of a loading lip, but apart from that, it's just flat. The wheel wells don't intrude. It's flat from either side, and that's because they've actually built basically a plastic box around this entire boot. There's an interesting bit about the side panels, and I don't know why they've done this or what it's for. You've got these panels on either side, and you've actually got a storage space between the plastic and the body. Lijo, do you have a thought about this?
By dry state, I'm not going to say.
Dry state, coming back from Goa, getting into Gujarat. I think you're sorted. Let's talk about the ergonomic niggles now. Renault, Nissan, that family of vehicles, they tend to do things a little bit differently from what we're used to, and that is still the case over here. Let's start with the cruise control. Now this car has cruise control. The steering wheel has 2 sets of buttons on the left and the right. On the left you've got a plus and minus button, on the right you've got resume and a 0 button. Now both these buttons are meant to control the cruise control, but how do you activate the cruise control? You don't do it from the steering wheel. To activate the cruise control, you actually have to reach down, and on the extreme right, on the lower part of the dashboard, next to the eco button and the headlight adjustment, there's a 3-position cruise control button. You can either set it to speed limit or cruise control. So you activate cruise control, and then you control the cruise control with your left and right hand on the steering wheel. It just seems redundant, unnecessary and weird, but that's the way it is. Other weirdness, of course, is the way Renault and Nissan do these things in these cars, is the audio controls. The audio controls, instead of having buttons or even behind the steering wheel in some cases, they've got this large, chunky, chocolate bar looking stalk here. It's got phone controls. There's an OK and cancel on top of this chocolate bar, and then you've got volume up and down on the sides. You can get used to it, but it's just very strange to look at, and you can't actually, the first time you look at it, you've got to actually look through the steering wheel and figure out what that legend is, what the text is, and then you figure it out, and then after that your muscle memory takes over and it's all right. Another couple of things that I'm not too fond of, the wheel well is fairly cramped. I have quite small feet. I'm a size 7, and it was still cramped for me. Somebody with Lijo's size feet or larger, 10s, 11s, are going to have problems with this. There is no dead pedal. Depending on your height and how your knees are situated in this footwell, it might be a problem. For Lijo, he's basically sitting with his knees near his ears, and that was weird. For me, it's okay. Long drives might be an issue. Another couple of things. There is a center armrest, but it is non-adjustable. This one does not have storage. There's no way of opening it. It's just a solid armrest with the AC vents behind it. Also, there don't seem to be any cup holders in the front. There are cup holders in the flip-down center armrest at the back for the rear passengers, but for the front, apparently, no drinking and driving is taken extremely literally with Nissan. No drinking coffee, tea, liquor, nothing. No drinking and driving. Infotainment. Now Nissan claims that the Kicks comes with a class-leading 8-inch touchscreen system, and it's an okay system. It certainly looks nice, that whole floating island sort of touchscreen. Response is good. Software seems to be okay. In terms of music, it doesn't have fancy branded speakers. There's no JBL branding on the speakers or whatever. It sounds okay to my taste. It's a little bit boomy and bass heavy, but I think that's what everybody's come to expect from car audio systems, so that's fine. It does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that works fine. The CarPlay seemed to have a slightly stretched image. I'm sure they'll fix that in some kind of future update. The party trick with the Nissan Kicks is, and again, this is a class first, segment leading, they have a 360-degree camera system. So there's a camera up front, at the back for parking, and you've also got 2 cameras below the ORVM. So what that does is it gives you like a top-down 360-degree view, which allows you to really place the Kicks perfectly in tight parking spots. You get a sense of what's around, so you make sure you don't scrape things or whatever. The touchscreen itself is reasonably high resolution, but the camera resolution in fact is not. So it looks a little bit smudgy and muddy most of the time, particularly at night, when it does a fair job of showing you what's around, but it looks pretty low resolution. So all in all, I think it's a win. So that's what the Nissan Kicks looks like. This is basically a collaboration between the India design team and the Japanese design teams, and this is what they came up with. The Kicks is a global model, but what they have in India is actually like almost like a superset. They've crammed as much as possible into this, because apparently as Indians we want maximum value from our progressive SUVs. So this is what they came up with. The wheelbase is actually longer than any other Kicks, and they've added lots of premium bits into it, and this is what it looks like. The wheels, as you can see, are 17-inch alloys. They are that two-tone diamond cut. Not a fan, but they look all right here. They fill the wheel wells nicely. Design, you can definitely tell that it's a Nissan, but there are also familiar bits, things that we've seen before, but I think it holds its own. It looks fairly nice. You do get that two-tone look with the roof. Those roof rails that you see up there, they are not entirely ornamental. They actually are load-bearing. You can put up to 100 kilos of weight across them. You can put a rack, maybe a bike rack, whatever. Headlamps are LED projectors, and I have to say the headlamps were a bright spot, pun intended, for this car. We drove here in pitch black last night, and the LED low beam is a really nice white, even wide spread of light. Really good. You turn on the high beam and there's a little bit more yellow in that light, but then the throw is more. Excellent headlamps. I really like them. One niggle was that the DRLs don't seem to be on all the time. I mean, there seems to be a mode to actually enable the DRLs, and they're also, again, they're a boomerang shape, and they're sort of indistinct. In a space where everybody's sort of talking up their DRLs and even making it a really prominent part of the front fascia, this may be a missed opportunity. I don't really care. That's how it is. Another interesting and clever thing that they've done is that the door covers, the black plastic cladding that you see on the bottom of the door, those are actually attached to the door. What that does is, if you've got dirt, mud, dust or whatever stuck on the door covers, when you open the door, that stuff is going to go with the door, and you've got a nice clean body inside. So when you're getting in perhaps with long pants, or ladies are getting in with flowing garments, they're not going to dirty their clothes getting in or out. I think that's a pretty clever thing. So where does that put the Nissan Kicks? Who is it for? Based on the size and what we're assuming the positioning is, this is basically going to be going up quite directly against the Hyundai Creta, and it's got big shoes to fill in that sense. The Creta is class leading in many ways, NVH just being one of them, features being another. The Kicks, it's going to be critical how Nissan prices it, and we will know that in January. The official launch is in January. I'm estimating between 10 and 15 lakhs, which will give it a fighting chance. Perhaps it will take away a little bit of business from the lower end, from a top end Nexon or a Ford EcoSport, and perhaps even on the top end from the recently announced Tata Harrier, which will also launch around the same time. It's a mid-sized SUV. I think it's got a competitive amount of features. It's a competitive engine. It's got stellar ride quality. The handling is good. Nissan really needs a win. I think the last launch that they had, big launch they had, was 5 years ago with the Terrano. So this is a long time coming. Get it right, Nissan. Get the pricing right.